Okay, let me get a mic check, mic check, mic check. Testing, testing, one, two, three. Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Testing, one, two, three. 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 Oh yeah, Black Sun in the Hizzle, all for shizzleism. We got an excellent show here today. Oh, y'all see the title. Let me get a mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check. Sup, sup, sup. What's up, Black Talk Sports? How's my sound? How's my sound? Mike, good? Okay, thanks, thanks, Black Talk Sports. Okay. Yeah, I was having audio issues with the first video. So you see the title, you see the title. Steve Witkoff meets with Putin. Um, and I've been wanting to talk about this because they met last Friday. And when I first seen Steve Witkoff, it was when Trump was negotiating when he introduced Steve Witkoff at Mar-a-Lago as the negotiator to talk to Hamas about the Israeli hostages. So my first impression, I was really I liked his whole demeanor. He's real humble, real soft spoken, but you know he has this humble demeanor that's very obviously he's very approachable and he's not an overbearing person as I can tell. Perfect for a negotiator, right? And also Steve Witkoff, not only with the Israel situation, but the situation he's supposed to be meeting with Iran, but I would say one of his best meetings and most pleasant meetings out of all this between Israel and Hamas and Iran to talk about that whole ordeal, their nuclear programs, is Putin. I think Putin is probably he'd be one of his most pleasant trips. Uh, being that, Putin is pretty easygoing from what I can see, and Steve Witkoff is pretty easygoing. Same height, they're both, short men. So they seem very, the body language, they seem pretty at ease with each other. And when they both shook hands and smiled, the smile was genuine. I could tell, you certain uh, expressions I can tell that are when people forced their smile and when the smile was genuine. You could tell that both Steve Witkoff and Putin were very excited and I would say in Steve Witkoff, his excitement was actually meeting Putin. So he was very thrilled about that. And in Putin, I would say because we haven't had an American go over there and talk sensible peace in a long time, so they were both genuinely happy. That's number one. Another thing y'all can check out, if you guys are not already subscribed to Tucker Carlson, subscribe to Tucker Carlson because uh, Tucker Carlson interviewed Steve Witkoff. Steve Witkoff, man, I'm gonna tell you, man, that I think, and y'all know I watch, Colonel Douglas McGregor, but I definitely disagree with Colonel Douglas McGregor. Colonel Douglas McGregor has said some not so kind words about Steve Witkoff. I mean, he really didn't insult him, but he was just, I mean, okay, I'm going to just say it. He said that Steve Witkoff was inexperienced, and how could Trump pick him to go talk to the world leaders of the world? And you know how Colonel McGregor be talking, and I think it's just, he's inexperienced and he's not certified, and I was just like, dude, at the end of the day, Colonel Douglas McGregor, it comes down to energy. Number one, energy comes down to being humble and just having a good personality. And these world leaders are not stupid, as you know, Colonel Douglas McGregor. And so Trump, in my opinion, has sent the right person just based on his energy. Whether you be, I mean, in any life situation, we're still humans and still human beings like to be around other pleasant human beings. And Steve Witkoff does not come off as boisterous. He's real soft spoken. He's real soft spoken. The man is at ease. You can tell he's real humble. And he's very meticulous about his words. He's very cautious. He's very aware of his surroundings, man. And I give Steve Witkoff a lot of. I'm gonna give Steve Witkoff the credit that Colonel Douglas McGregor's not giving Steve Witkoff. Now, you know, I like Colonel Douglas McGregor, but he's wrong on this one about Steve Witkoff. He is dead wrong, and I would say to Colonel Douglas McGregor, we've gone with the establishment for the last 40 years, and look at where it has got us. And so, just like Trump is a fresh face to the presidency and to D.C., Steve Witkoff is part of that process also. I don't know why Colonel Douglas McGregor, I mean, I think he's still stuck with this establishment mentality. So I say that to say this, John. Thanks for the like. Thanks for the share. Thank y'all. Um, and this is what I was saying too, Chubbs, before you didn't hear me in the last video, was that uh, check out Steve Witkoff. Like I said, the best platform that I've seen him on was Tucker Carlson. Y'all check that out and let me know what do y'all think about Steve Witkoff. I think he's a good guy. Um, I think he's a wise guy. Not in the sense of like mafia wise guy, but he's a very knowledgeable, and I think he listens. Now, one advantage that he does have is that Steve Witkoff, and I didn't even know Putin. I said this yesterday. I didn't know Putin was a former lawyer, but Steve Witkoff is a former lawyer, and so lawyers. However you may feel about lawyers, lawyers are trained to listen. They're not trained to just talk and talk over people. They're trained to listen, take in the information, assess the information, and bring back the information exactly how it was assessed. And so, by him being a lawyer, he's taking back the exact side of what Russia is. He's taking back Russia's side of the story, which to me is the accurate side of the story. When I look at both sides, I look at, like I said, I did go back and say, okay, let me see okay, so can hear you now. Okay, yeah, no problem. I don't know what's wrong with this Bluetooth, man. It just Chubbs. I think I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I have problems with this thing, man. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it works fine. So, but thank you, Chubbs. Thank you for letting me know, because I would have done a whole show with no sound. So Chubbs is saying here, Trump knows how to put the right person on the job that helps America. Trump learned from his first time in office. Right, right, because he had a bunch of swamp creatures around him the first time. It was his first time, so he didn't know. Now Trump knows, and that's why I'm saying Trump 2.0 is way better than the original Trump, because Trump just came in there. He didn't know. Those people were like, oh, pick this person, pick that person, pick that person. He's like, okay, he didn't know better. Now he knows better. And that's why his negotiator is somebody that he knows. Not somebody from the DC swamp, not somebody that Colonel Douglas McGregor approves of. I'm just like, dude, Colonel Douglas McGregor, with all your damn wisdom, don't you see what Trump is doing? Like, he's not getting the typical establishment hack out of Washington. This typical stooge hack out of Washington is the problem. That's the problem. That is the swamp creature. He actually put people in his administration this time around that was further away from the swamp than the first administration. The first administration, I mean, just look at Mike Pence. Look at Mike Pence, swamp creature. Look at, I mean, just, oh God. His first administration was just, the people he had in his cabinet were just, yeah, they were swamp creatures. I'm not going to dwell too much on his first cabinet because I want to focus on Steve Witkoff. I don't want to take any of the credit away from him because I think he's doing a good job. And I think he will do, look, out of negotiating with Hamas, with the Israel situation, about to go meet with Iran and Putin. Putin is probably going to be his most pleasant visits. I can assure you that. That's going to be his most pleasant visit. It's probably going to be one of his most favorite visits just because of, you know, number one, Putin and them, Moscow, the Kremlin, you know, Sergei Lavrov, all them, they're they're laxed. They're not in no hurry. They're not in no. They're coming from a place of non-desperation, unlike Zelensky. Now, I have said on here that I don't blame the war on Russia or Zelensky. I blame it on the Biden administration and I blame it on England, Boris Johnson. I also blame damn NATO because NATO is really showing themselves right now. They're really exposing themselves for who they really are. And who are they? They are warmongers. They are people who want to keep war going. And they're in no position, which makes no sense because it seems like if they push Trump is on the verge of just letting them know, hey, do that on your own. Do that meaning you want to start with Russia, you might have to do that on your own because the American people have spoken. We have made a mandate. We don't want no part of Ukraine, the Ukrainian war. We don't. We don't want to fund it. We don't. And so Trump is the best spokesman because he said he wants to end the war. He wants the people to stop dying, like he told Kaylin Collins. People stop dying. And so this is the mandate that is sensible to the American people. This is wise. And so, yeah, Steve Witkoff is the perfect person for this peace process. And so Steve Witkoff, because is a perfect person because he's going to tell the precise way that Russia's telling it. So Russia's telling Steve Witkoff um, about the Minsk Accords. They're giving him all the grief. You know, Putin's going to give him all the grievance. You know that you know we set the red lines. America kept crossing the red line. They provoked us. America provoked the war by saying, you know what, we're going to take Ukraine into NATO. We're going to take Ukraine into NATO. And that was a red line to Russia since the day of this, when the Soviet fell. That was always a red line. And so that's why I said America has caused that war because America knew the red lines. I mean, Ukraine did too, but I only say I weigh the balance on America and NATO, because America and NATO put the battery in the back of Ukraine to stand up against Russia when they had no chance against Russia. And so, and y'all may say, well, Black Son, I mean, if um, they have a right to stand up to them. You might say that, and I would say that what Trump said, you don't start a war with somebody who has more weapons than you. Or you don't start a war where you have to borrow money, borrow weapons, borrow this, borrow that, borrow. You don't. That's not a good place to be in to start a war where you have to keep borrowing equipment, borrowing weapons, borrow hammers, borrow medical supplies, borrow blankets, borrow javelins. You got to borrow. Gimme. You should already be established if you're going to decide you're going to either, start a war or defend yourself in a war. You have to have these things already on deck, you know. Now, I've heard rumors, so I would just say I've heard. I'm not going to say this is fact or fiction. I've heard that when Ukraine gets their weapons, they're selling them to Africa, to the cartels down in Mexico, to the black market. This is what I've heard. I can't prove it. And so I'm not going to say if it's either fact or fiction, but when you have these type of things out here in the atmosphere that you are selling equipment, then people begin to get doubt and become reluctant to send you more weapons and more money, especially when you have not shown where you are winning. Let me say that again. People become reluctant. It's just human nature to send supplies and weapons when you are not winning. People, even in the Trump cabinet now, news media, and other places have said, oh, Ukraine is winning, Ukraine is winning. And then we will repeat something that they heard from another person, that they heard from another person, that they heard from another person, not knowing that, or not even bothering to see, well, if Ukraine is winning, what territories are they winning? It's a simple thing, but you got a lot of lazy people that would just hear, "Oh, Ukraine is winning," and they would just repeat it. And some of them will even argue with you, Ukraine leader or are crooks. Right. And this is not only are they crooks, but I keep hearing, Chubbs, that Ukraine is the most corrupt country in the world. Have you not heard that? I know you've heard that because I keep hearing it. I keep hearing it constantly that Ukraine is the most corrupt country in the world, which validates your comments. Because obviously you've heard it, because your comments is in line with this saying that I've been constantly hearing. I've heard it from Colonel Douglas McGregor. I've heard it from Scott Ritter. I've heard it from who else? Many sources. Those are just my one of my two favorite guys to go to as my source. But yes, John Ritter and Colonel Douglas McGregor have said, yeah, Ukraine is the most. Oh, and even what's his name? Scott Norton. Yeah, Scott Norton, he said it too, and he's on he's a libertarian. I ain't gonna say he's on the left, but what I'm saying is that, yeah, these people have constantly referred to Ukraine as the most corrupt country in the world. And so when you think about that, and then on one hand, and then, especially as an American citizen, being taxed, and then you're like, we're being taxed for weapons, but in the back of our minds, we're saying, but those weapons are being sold. And then in the back of mind, you're saying, uh, uh, Ukraine is the most corrupt country in the world. Then you become reluctant. Then you become reluctant. And so this creates an atmosphere of doubt, an atmosphere of reluctancy, and an atmosphere of distrust. And because all these things, people's natural reaction, that being MAGA, or just, I mean, is to end the war, just end the war, because we're not seeing, where this is beneficial. What's going on, Robcat? What's going on? I heard that Ukraine. Okay, so the colonel has a military mindset, not good for trying to end the war. That's, well, Chubbs, I agree with you, but even Colonel Douglas McGregor still has a sense of when to, what's that Kenny Rogers song? You got to know when to hold, know when to walk away. He knows when to walk away and know when to fold. So I give Colonel Douglas McGregor that. I do understand the military mindset of fight, 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 win, win, win. But, you know, by him being a colonel, by him being a colonel, uh, and this goes to your sergeants, your lieutenants also, you have to know, uh, you have to know when to retreat. And Colonel Douglas McGregor has laid out to where he says, the Ukraine is a no-win situation, and you know, uh, same with Scott Ritter. Scott Ritter's, Marines. Well, Curtis Wagner's Army, but Scott Ritter's Marines. But they have both said that the Ukraine is a no-win situation. However, you got leftovers from the Obama administration and even some people in the Trump administration, generals saying, "Oh no, we can fight this. We can fight this." Is, yeah, you can fight this, but can you win it? What do you, I mean? You gotta, like I said, you gotta know, And I get the military mindset. I get it. I get it. Shout out to all my brothers in arms, but you know, in every great war there are retreats. We won the Civil War, but there were numerous retreats in the Civil War. So you have to know and be smart about your odds of winning. You know, um, some of the greatest generals have retreated. General Sherman, General Lee, of course. He was known for, being evasive. Ulysses, uh, you know, McClellan. There are numerous generals, man, that fought in battles that have retreated. Like I said, you look at a situation and you got to know based on, but I mean, those are left to your generals, your colonels and, whatnot. But you still have to, I mean, I guess, the sergeants can't really make a move without the lieutenants, and the lieutenants can't make a move without the colonels. So, you know, I get that a lot of times you got to take your orders, and you can't call for retreat unless the higher officer calls for it, unless he's killed in battle. So what I'm saying is that, um, when you look at the map, because again, when they say, "Oh, Ukraine is winning," it's like where, and Just because you're holding off the Russians and the Russians have decided, you know what, we're going to pause, that's not, I'm trying to, I'm looking at how the Russians are engaging and how they're, they keep selling stalemate, stalemate. No, it's not a stalemate. It's, um, I see them surrounding many of the provinces, or the what they call them obliques. They're surrounding a lot of those areas, and they are in good positions to just like. And I learned it when, like I said, when I started learning the Russian technique is when I was watching Wagner in Bakhmut, how they do a crescent moon maneuver. It's like a crescent moon. Like they always, when they're about to besiege a place, they surround it. Okay, what does Chubb say? Chubb says Ukraine, well, what benefits for the U.S. Nothing less. There's a deal for mining rights. So yeah, Chubb. Okay, so Chubb's, they're already talking about how Ukraine or is going to be divided up between the U.S. and Russia. They've already discussed it. Even uh, what's his name? The Economist. I don't like this guy. Sachs. What's his name? Sachs. I hate that guy. And he's so anti-Trump. He got TDS, but he made a good point. He said we're at the stage now where it's just a negotiation between Russia and U.S. dividing up damn Ukraine as far as the rare earths. That's what it's about now. And this is somebody who doesn't like Trump. We all know that Mr. Sachs doesn't like Trump, but he said it. He said, yeah, we're at the dividing stage. We're at the carving up stage right now as we speak. And I was like, oh, okay. So apparently nobody told Zelensky that. Nobody told Zelensky we're at the carving stage right now to divide up Ukraine between Russia and the U.S., which is interesting that he said that. So he, this narrative has not gone out to the mainstream media yet, but the economists of the world, the banksters of the world, and the economists of the world are now. This is where they are in the phase. They are in. That's why they get heads up before we do, as far as these types of situations, because they're ready to carve up stake their claim in Ukraine. Like, I got this, I got that, I got that, I got this. So that's why Sachs, he's making his claim now. He's saying the war's done. We're way past that. We are in. The rest of y'all are still in the old. Zelensky's still fighting. The rest of y'all are in the same state of mind that Zelensky's in. We here, the economists and the banksters, we're at the, okay, who's going to get what? Who's going to get what? That's the stage you're in. There's an interview, damn, I wish, and I don't like Sachs, but I wish, I think the Indian News or something, it's TOA, the Indian something news, but I saw him on there and he was sitting at the table with some other economists, Mr. Sachs was, and they were, it was a Japanese guy to his left, and they were all, discussing the economy. But they're at the stage of, who's going to get what now? Who's going to get what? And I'm assuming all these economists were from different countries. I want to assume some were from Japan, some were from, because he was talking real ill about the tariffs. So apparently there are people at the seat of the table in different countries, because he was talking real fly and real, he was talking real fly about damn Trump and his tariffs. And I was just like, okay, so he just was really feeling himself. But I'm not going to dwell on Mr. Sachs. Like I said, the main focus was their mentality. Their mentality is, okay, what part of Ukraine are we going to get? And what a part of Ukraine are they going to get? That's where they're at right now. That's where they're home. Hold on, y'all. Let me talk to these people on this tower. Hold on, y'all. This is CO6 for Barnes. Okay, I'm gonna just stand here until he goddamn responds. Cause I'm not gonna play the guessing game. I'm not gonna play the guessing game today, y'all. Cause the light they usually flash which scale you're gonna go in. I don't see it, so I don't know if I'm on standby. Tower. See, you wanna play games, man? I ain't got time for this shit. Oh, but I hate when they do this shit, bro. All right, y'all. So okay, y'all. Let me get going. Let me man, I want to thank y'all for coming out, man. Shout out. I gotta go in here because they playing games and I ain't got time for this. Shout out to Rob Cat. Shout out to Chubbs. Um, shout out to Relax and Talk Sports. Let me get in here because they playing games, man, and they don't have the light on. So um, I'll probably do another show later on. But with that being said, man, let me get going. Let me find out what's going on here.